I had a really hard day on Sunday because my kitty is dying, and I sat with
Oh,
her, and she's wasting away, and her beautiful blue eyes are turning yellow, and
oh,
she's all bones, and she won't eat, and she won't poop. And I just sat there kind of just in the sensation, the burning in the heart. And then for some reason, I got something diverted me to Facebook, which I avoid like the plague, but I got on Facebook for the first time in years. And I saw all these people who shall remain nameless, some of which you know, posting, talk about a photo album. Facebook to me is like photo album on steroids.
yeah, it is.
Um,
It
because
is.
you're in everybody's photo album version of what they think their life should look like, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And so it triggered something, some some shame and some inadequacy. And then Hannah's interview came a couple hours later, where it was like, we don't know anything. And then I thought, I remember when that happened to me.
Uh,
It wasn't quite as a big a blow up as she had, but I loved the energy behind it. Where I kind of spent a day Googling words and finding out that this word referred to that word, which referred back to this word, so that all words were empty. There was no meaning. And then I had that experience with you guys where the meaning track detached from the soundtrack.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the words were just blah, 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 like Gary Larson, blah, blah, ginger, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But it sunk even deeper listening to Hannah. And the part of the interview that I really loved was the reboot, 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 like knowing it and kind of really getting it down lower.
Yes.
Uh, a friend of mine who was in the honeymoon period, she said to me one day after she woke up, she said, I see you clearer than you see yourself, because you see yourself in the mirror and you have all sorts of ideas, but I see the hair and the pimple and the beauty and this and that, and there's no judgment, there's nothing, it's just clean.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
clean slate, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was just rebooting myself in the mirror all day. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, reboot. And I realized about love, the part that got me upset about Facebook was I had all these ideas about the meaning of the word love. And love means a monogamous relationship, 2.4 kids, a microwave, a nice Christmas tree, a this, a that, a this, a that. And that uh, success, beauty, all these things came into the meaning of the word love. And I always keep thinking, where's the love? And then,
Yeah.
guys, wait a minute,
Hang on. Yeah.
hang on.
Yeah.
Love doesn't mean that. That's
Nope.
No,
complete conditioned bullshit.
Yeah.
And
completely.
yeah, it really got in. It was like, oh, and
Wonderful.
and then what happened then? I have a question at the end of this because
Sure.
uh, where was it? I had to keep notes because I was writing as this was going on. Um, so because words are all reflective on other words, I'm doing a video now on point of view. And there's point of view, which is a set of beliefs, and there's point of view, which is the physical experience of seeing things from a center.
Hmm.
Like the world spawns, it is created from whatever point of view you're looking at.
Yeah.
And and that point of view could be a set of beliefs or conditioning, or it just could be the physical embodied sensation, like you work with in Fetter 6,
Yeah.
of separation.
Yeah.
So my question is,
Yes.
body yes and body no, it has to do with knowing, like we know nothing.
Hmm.
But yet I have this medical map, and you have it too, Pernilla, because you say things like hormones and nerves and nervous system and this and that. And so I have this medical map I lay on top of,
Mm.
because of position, the trick of the brain that the brain does is it spawns this map in space-time out of a point of view. And it does it because it's for survival, to find prey and to avoid being eaten. and all of the things that we had to do, we had to create some kind of map so we could navigate the maze, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is experiencing life without a center different if you reboot every minute and you
Mm,
drop every story, but
mm.
yet there still remains this physical sense of a perspective, and in that is this mystery of knowing the body yes and the body no,
Yeah,
which is a
no,
kind of
and it's actually I can see exactly where, because you're on the right path and then you take a turn.
okay.
There's what you're talking about is being in that space where there's no starting point. There is just arising, 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 arising. What you then say is that you have this medical overlay, just like I do. We have that medical overlay. That is part of our causes and conditions. It does not mean that it's truth, though. It's just part of our causes and conditions. Just like Jason now has causes and conditions that makes him know about, supporting people and the law and how he can, support. That does not make that true. It's just part of his causes and conditions. And if we have a painter or a musician or anybody else that are seeing the world without a starting point, the arising, arising, arising is happening out of those causes and conditions. And like Todd just said, we don't know anything because we need to have all the information from the Big Bang to know. And we simply don't. We simply don't. We just have causes and conditions that are helping us noticing and, like you say, avoid being eaten and make sure that we do eat. And that is basically it. So there's no right or wrong in it. From those causes and conditions that we have, from that pure arising, arising, arising that is happening, there is not a starting point. Because with a starting point, we have a belief that something is right and wrong. So the starting point is not there. It's just the arising, arising, arising. In that, there is a body yes, body no happening based on those causes and conditions that makes us know where, for example, a boundary is, where if this is okay for me to do or not okay for me to do. But it's still based on the causes and conditions because there's no escaping that. You are in a meat suit. There's no escaping the meat suit. And what has created this meat suit to be here alive now will influence that body yes, body no. It does not mean that the body yes, body no now is truth or a new belief that we can lean on.
And it's
It's
not omniscient.
exactly. It's not omniscient. It's not the truth. A body, yes, it's not the truth because it can't be. It can
It's
only be
just a way to navigate the maze.
yes.
And I would even go, if I could just jump in for a
Yeah, yeah,
second, I would even
absolutely.
go so far as to say, in the way that I view it, it's more when we talk about it as like a way of navigating the maze, it's really when you're still working with like the lower fetters, that it's someplace to get, it's a way of navigating where you're not just navigating by conceptual understanding like we normally do. It's something that's a little more honest and
Mm.
authentic and truthful than just being in to-do lists and yes and no's and all of those, the things that we can logically fabricate. It's a little more deep than that, but I think as we get further on, it starts to become obvious that it is just the body moving has these certain hallmarks with it. And when the body is moving towards this option or that, or away from that option, there is a sensation that goes along with that. There is like an openness with the outflowing towards I don't know. I'm blanking on possibilities, but like going to the mall today has this feeling of whew as it's happening versus sitting and writing is feeling condensed and that's not going to happen. But when we look at that as those things are now going to be the conscious causes of the event, we're kind of parsing it out in the wrong way. What it really is it seems to be one contiguous happening. And that is now, if we're not looking at through the earlier fetter stages, we can just recognize that there seems to be a hallmark that when things feel naturally unfolding, there is this openness and expansiveness that's there. When we are doing something because there's some sort of forcefulness, conceptualization thing that's involved where we're doing things that are against our boundaries or that doesn't really feel, right for us, but there's some sort of other pressure coming in from other realms, there is this kind of tension in the body that seems to be giving off that no, that we're just not we don't notice earlier on in the process, and then it just starts to become something where I think it becomes like a warning light, and then something that we don't necessarily even experience as much if you're really just moving with the flow of things. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that clear? Is
yeah,
coming out clear
yeah,
or not?
absolutely. I'm sitting and
Like,
thinking that there's really something about that causes and conditions where the body yes, body no in the higher feathers. And we were
Yeah.
we were in New York City on Saturday, and we were not the only one there. There were so many
A
people
few other people had the idea of going
out
to New
of
York
going,
City before.
seeing the lights in New York City in December. So that was a lot of people. And when we were sitting on the bus on the way out, both of us are so exhausted. And Todd, he goes like, I will never drive a car in New York City. And it's hell no, hell no. Yeah,
Very clear
very,
body no
very
to
clear
that.
body no. And I'm like, if we're ever in that situation, I'm fine doing that. I've been driving in Rome and Athens and Sousse and Madrid. I'm fine. I can do that. And then was just like dropped like
Yeah,
that. Okay, so if that's an agreement,
yeah.
if we're ever in a car in New York City, I do that one, not a problem. Fine, fine. That's a body, yes, I can do that. And he has that, hell
Oh,
no,
nope.
you know?
No, no, no.
And then there's nothing more to it. It's just like the causes and conditions here are like, heh, and the causes and conditions there are like, oh, no, no,
Nope.
no, 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 no.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
And that's basically just it. That there's not building more on it, and there's not, looking into it, and it's not creating something out of nothing. It's just like, okay, I drive, you don't, high five, so's it. You know what I mean? But in the lower fives, like Todd said, but the body as but no is really, really a good tool in navigating beyond the concepts we have in our minds of right and wrong. Then having that visceral navigation of hell no.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
because
can I
yeah,
rephrase
Yeah, yeah,
something?
please,
yes,
please.
absolutely.
In the higher fetters, then it seems like you said something in the interview that the only thing you can do is to go to the fifth floor
Yeah.
and look down. And it seems to me that if I used to have this idea that people, all non-dual teachers, used to talk about living without a center. And I used to imagine that meant that there was no physical sensation of a center,
Hmm.
and that there was some mysterious thing going on where they were having this 360 view and floating around, and nothing was located in
Yeah,
time or space anywhere ever,
yeah,
and all this bullshit. So
yeah.
so now what I'm seeing is that because one is just flowing ninth
Mhm.
fetterly with what is arising out of causes and conditions
Mm.
and not identifying with it, it's easy to ascend to overview
At any
at,
point, yeah.
at
Yeah.
any point and see without attachment to a center, without identification with the center. But there still is always, as long as we're wed to the meat suit in some way in this mystery, and have what we call cellular conditioning, which is an idea
Yeah.
that refers to causes and conditions in the body,
Yeah.
that then we will navigate a certain way. It like what your rat in the maze goes different than his rat in the maze, because
Yes.
Exactly.
you have different causes and conditions, and that's the
Yes.
end of, not a big fancy thing about it. And you're not walking around seeing the world 360 from some mysterious
No.
No,
center
no, but you
point of view.
can at any because you're not attached or identified to this meat suit here, viewing like that at any point. Like the other day on Sunday, when we came back, my brain was completely mushed. And we were sitting at the table, and suddenly I saw a fruit fly come by, and then I watched the fruit fly, seeing from the fruit fly's vantage point how the room looked, and that was the whole world. And then I was back being Pernille watching the fruit fly flying around. There's no attachment for me to see and experience here. It can be at any point.
That comes from overview, sort of. In a way, it's, well, not overview so much as an expanded,
Yeah,
like expanding, 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 and all points of view are equal,
yeah.
and none of them
And
are stuck.
exactly. And when you no longer have a need to be here and this is me and identify, then it's also like you and I have talked about that Todd and I, we have the same dreams at night sometimes.
Mm.
That we're dreaming the same thing during the night because there's not really that split between it, and we're not identified to be here and be there. It's more mushy. That's a phrase, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
it's more
Yeah,
merging than just being here.
right. I noticed that, and I think everybody has this experience when you're really, even before all these fetters job, when you're really connected to someone you're really close to, you can feel them across the world,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you know when they die, and you know this experience that twins have of each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. That explains that. That's better. I feel better about it because it was my enlightenment handbook that was getting in the way of all of this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really letting go of all of those ideas of what it is and allowing what actually is to be.
Because also I think there needs to be a caveat in all these six fetter exercises,
Mm,
because there is the sense that this will drop.
Mm.
It's implicit that this will
Yeah.
drop and then it will stay dropped, but it
mm.
doesn't
Yeah.
stay dropped.
It no, no, no.
It
If
is
if it
just
did, you
seeing
couldn't
that
drive a car.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think because I did have a period where it was flat, but it didn't last very long. And I thought, well, maybe it hasn't dropped because my handbook says it should drop and stay dropped.
Yeah.
No, but the I think what I mean with it when I say that it's dropping, it's that identification of I can only see the world from here. I cannot see it from a fruit fly or see it from a leaf. But obviously, it's not helpful for me to drive a car if I'm a fruit fly. So it cannot stay dropped. You know, you can't drive a car as a leaf. It cannot stay dropped. But you can snap in and out of this perception and a perception of a leaf and a perception of you can snap in and out of it because there's no need for me to be here in a certain way anymore. And that is what I see is dropping in the six feather.
Okay, my last thing is when Jason was talking and he was saying, I have uh sorry, I have all this pressure on my chest that is anxiety. Of
Mm.
Mm.
course, my medical map went, go get an EKG. And so does that mean that, so that's my causes and conditions, his is interpreting it his way. But when I get on my medical thing and I find people are like ignoring the obvious medical implicate, like last night my niece was having a seizure and they had a whole interpretation of it. I was like, no, go to the ER and
Yeah.
get a CT scan,
Yeah. Get
right?
a brain
So
scan. Yeah, yeah.
they're like, I
No,
get accused
but Leela,
I get
this
accused of reifying my medical thing.
yeah, because when you say now that your niece that she had a seizure, my medical hat immediately goes, that's not psychological. We need to check out the brain. But that does just that you and I are agreeing on that does not mean that it's true. It's just our bloody causes and conditions. If you and I were psychologists, we would sit and go like, maybe you should look into your childhood. Because that would be the hat we had on. And it does not mean that that is true. It's
So
why
if someone drops dead, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't vindicate me if I didn't tell Jason to go get an
no, and
EKG.
now it's a video that you have set it so you can feel good.
Yeah. But but I think that's the thing too that we've been talking a little bit more about lately is that learning how to live in both sides of in both the relative and the universal truths at the same time. And it's not as simple as just, okay, well, I used to live in a world where everything was medical causes and conditions where, you know, everything had a very clear ailment and a diagnosis and a treatment. Now I'm in a place where very clearly, it doesn't matter if that thing is there or not, and there's nobody there to die, and it's no, that's also there are two different ways of viewing the experience, but it doesn't mean that either one is entirely true. And it's okay to go back and forth. And I think what it's that, like in the ox herding pictures in the 10 bulls, you get to the point where there's that spacious open empty circle, but then eventually it's coming back to the marketplace. And what we're really talking about is that integration of
Mm,
back into the marketplace where you can both be a doctor and see that, okay, well, that sign could actually be a heart condition. You should really go get an EKG and get that checked out. And also know experientially in you that it's okay that the person is going to go to the hospital and get checked out, and if they die, that there is also a certain unreality to the life that we live it as, that there I'm both experiencing this relationship with somebody and having this the love and all of that is there on one level, and on another level it's very clear that there is nothing but causes and conditions, and you know atoms moving back and forth, and nothing stable in body or mind or personality or any of that, that all of it is a very convenient mislabeling of experience, and both of those things can coexist, and it's really just learning how to navigate back and forth where we can skillfully be in the world, but it's that phrase, being in the world but not of the world,
mm,
so you're not completely adhering to either one of them, but that they're both available as optional
mm.
perspectives.
And there's no hooks or identification into either.
Yeah,
It's complete freedom for it to
exactly.
be. You can have all your medical hats coming on when Jason talks about the pressure, and you can say, I would suggest you having a checking out, free medical advice. There you go. And that's it. And there's no hooks to him doing it or not doing it or anything. It's just now it's said, you were here, you heard it, and now you say it. Like we had a friend that I saw a picture of and got really concerned. That was my medical hat. So obviously I reached out. If I didn't have that medical hat, I wouldn't have reached out. But there's nothing right or wrong in reaching out. It's just what is happening and what is part of, knowing me,
Hmm.
of how I am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sending
Always.
love to your cat.
Yeah. So sorry. Keep us posted.
Yeah.